5 News This Morning starts now.
Construction to improve safety and traffic along I-70 in Farmington is now finished. We'll have a live report coming up on this $15 million project.
And for today, another warm one. Nothing that's really out of the ordinary. Highs in the mid to upper 90s, but we do see a little bit of a change starting for August. We'll talk about that further coming up.
And one of the most recognized wrestlers in the world has passed away. Ahead, we remember the life and legacy of Hulk Hogan.
But first, a live look outside in Fort Smith. Good morning to you. It is Friday. That weekend is finally here. You just got to get through the workday today. A lot's going on. You got the Altus Grape Fest coming up, and it's going to be a hot weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be a hot weekend. The temperature may be a couple degrees cooler, but that humidity jumps back up. So, again, you're kind of just trading the temperature going down for the humidity going up. So it's going to feel about the same. Nothing that's out of the ordinary, though. Take a live look outside in Poto. 72 degrees, a beautiful shot there in LaFleur County. 70 for that dew point, so not too shabby for that dew point this morning, but it is expected to be on the rise later this morning into the day today, and it will feel pretty muggy, but especially for this weekend, it's going to be shooting up for us. So for the River Valley, those temperatures will be in the mid 70s for this morning, and then eventually getting its way into the mid to upper 70s later this afternoon with a little bit more cloud cover, especially heading later during the afternoon hours. For Northwest Arkansas right now, we're in the upper 60s and low 70s, and eventually getting to the low 90s by 1 o'clock and in the mid 90s for this afternoon. Again, those clouds do build in a little bit, those kind of puffy cumulus clouds. Now for this upcoming weekend, again, the air temperature is going to be a little bit more seasonal in the low 90s in Northwest Arkansas, but that heat index is still going to be up to 103 both days just because the dew points are going to be in the mid 90s. Similar story for River Valley. Yeah, it's about normal at 95, but the heat index up to 108 just because those dew points are in the mid 70s. And you see those 20% chances. There's a rain chance, but it's a small one. We'll talk a little bit more about that coming up in your full forecast. For now, we'll take a live look at traffic. We'll go to Bentonville area. We'll take a live look along I-49 at Battlefield Boulevard. There is an accident southbound at I-49. This is roughly at about mile marker 86.5. There's been emergency vehicles on the scene here, so we're keeping a close eye on that. This is on the right shoulder southbound at I-49 at Battlefield Boulevard near the Bentonville area. So if you're in that area, make sure to be careful, and again, we'll make sure to bring you any updates if we do receive them, either on air or online. But again, we'll talk more about that full forecast coming up in just a little bit. Joe and Tiffany.
All right, thanks for that, Danny. Well, tonight, Grape Fest begins in Altus.
Well, thousands are expected to visit the town for their annual celebration, which is always a good time. 5 News reporter Emily Moss joining us live there in Altus with more. Good morning.
Good morning, Joe and Tiffany. That's right. I'm live here in Altus ahead of the 42nd annual Grape Festival, and crews here are joining us early this morning to make sure that tonight's festival goes smoothly. You can see they've already done a lot of work setting up for ahead of today's festival. And coming up on 5 News Plus for 5 News This Morning Plus, I'll have a live interview with one of those crew members, the main one, James Dahlem, as we talk about everything you need to know before you come out to tonight's festival. Live in Altus, covering news where you live, Emily Moss, 5 News.
All right, thank you for that. We'll also have Altus Grape Festival coming up on around the corner here in just a little bit. You don't want to miss that. Well, it is a big day for Farmington after years of planning and just over a year of construction. A $15 million highway project is complete.
5 News reporter Jacob Luthi is joining us in studio to show us how this upgrade can help keep up with the city's rapid growth. Good morning, Jacob.
Good morning. It was back in 2010 when Farmington city leaders passed a resolution calling for an evaluation of Highway 170. 14 years later, that plan turned into action with construction beginning last May. Now, the project is complete, finished at a time when Farmington continues to see rapid growth. Mayor Ernie Penn says the importance of the Highway 170 project cannot be overstated, adding the upgrades were necessary and long overdue. The project expands over 2 miles of Highway 170 from 2 lanes to 3 in Farmington. Other upgrades include new sidewalks, curbs, and gutters on both sides, improving both safety and access. Officials say the enhanced infrastructure will support the city's continued growth and development. Dave Parker with the Arkansas Department of Transportation says that while it took 15 years from conception to completion, this project is a prime example of city leaders coming together to identify a need and delivering a solution.
$15 million. So not a big project in terms of dollars, but the impact to the community, that's what really means the most for us and certainly for them. It will make things much nicer and easier and safer, we hope, for that area, certainly with the school nearby. So just a really good feeling about this one.
Well, RDOT says that now that the project is complete, the city of Farmington will take over responsibility and ownership of the highway within its city limits. To mark the occasion, city leaders will hold a ribbon-cutting ceremony later this morning at Farmington High School. Jacob Luthi, 5 News.
All right, thanks for that, Jacob. Well, a trial date is now set for a former Fort Smith Library employee indicted on federal charges in Miami.
Yeah, Ronnie Finn Sovanovong is facing charges of sexual exploitation of children. He was a circulation manager at the Fort Smith Library from 2008 until his resignation this year. The trial is set for September 8th. If convicted, he could face up to 40 years in federal prison.
And the trial date has been set for a homicide suspect in Fort Smith. 25-year-old Hunter Harrell was arrested last Friday and charged with first-degree murder. Police found 39-year-old Jerry Bean dead around the 1300 block of North 38th Street. Harrell's trial date is set for December. Well, another setback in ceasefire talks between Israel and Hamas.
Israel and the U.S. have recalled negotiators from Gaza, accusing Hamas of not acting in good faith. President Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff said in a statement that they'll consider other ways to bring the hostages home and create a more stable environment in Gaza. Meanwhile, Hamas wrote in part that they have behaved with high responsibility to conclude a ceasefire deal. Earlier this week in Washington, survivors and families of those still held hostage by Hamas gathered there in front of the U.S. Capitol.
Fighting puts the lives of the hostages at risk every single second.
Comes as concern swells for the growing humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Dozens of people have reportedly starved to death in the region over the last few weeks, according to the Hamas-run Ministry of Health.
Meanwhile, French President Emmanuel Macron announced on Thursday that the country will recognize Palestine as a state. It's the first G7 nation to do so. Israel and the U.S. criticized the plan, with Secretary of State Marco Rubio calling it a reckless decision that only serves Hamas propaganda.
Well, the Department of Justice is gearing up for a second day of interviews with Jeffrey Epstein co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell.
Today, Deputy AG Todd Blanche is back with the convicted sex trafficker. Blanche posted that the DOJ will share more of what they learn at the appropriate time. In an interview with CBS News, Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson called for more accountability.
We want everybody who was involved in any way with the Epstein evils, let's call it what it was, to be brought to justice as quickly as possible. We want the full weight of the law on their heads.
Well, despite bipartisan interest on Thursday, President Donald Trump called concern over Epstein's connections, quote, yet another Democrat con job.
Now, professional wrestling has lost perhaps its biggest star ever. Hulk Hogan died Thursday in Florida. He was 71 years old. Tributes immediately began pouring in from around the world.
The greatest of all times, Hulk Hogan. And I love you, Hulk.
Now, first responders were sent to Hogan's home there after a report of a person in cardiac arrest. Hogan, whose real name, Terry Bolla, was taken to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. President Trump was among those who posted tributes for Hogan on social media. Vice President J.D. Vance said Hogan was, quote, one of the first people I ever truly admired as a kid. Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin, a former mixed martial arts fighter, said he was hurt when he learned about Hogan's death, adding it is, quote, hard to see a dynasty like that leave. Hogan made a memorable visit to Razorback Stadium last November during the game against Texas. He called the Hogs with Razorback hopeful faithfuls. Hogan also made stops in Rogers and Little Rock last year, promoting his beer company, Real American Beer.